Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. J-Rod here. Today we'll be going over the Master Nezarec challenge, the All Hands challenge, and it's actually pretty easy compared to some of the other ones. I found this one a little bit easier than the Planets challenge, and of course way easier than the Cision challenge because in the Cision challenge not all the mechanics work, so it was just kind of like an RNG thing if you were going to get it done. This one has very little RNG for the most part. We didn't really run into situations that were like too far out of hand because of some mechanic not working or somebody getting stuck on something. The challenge is pretty simple. As far as like a run through, it's basically making sure that everybody hits a node and then switches and hits a node on the other side. So you're two teams of three, and you're going to have 3 light and 3 dark. And then what's going to happen is those 3, let's say they start out 1, 2, 3 on the dark and the light side, will then switch sides entirely and then be 4, 5, 6 on the opposite side. So light 1, 2, and 3 will end up finishing dark 4, 5, and 6. And then dark 1, 2, and 3 will end up finishing light 4, 5, and 6. And another trick to the end of this is that if you don't hit the 6s roughly at the same time within a about 5-10 second window, it was pretty tight, then you would fail the challenge and have to start over again. So on top of everything that Master Nezarec already does, which I have covered in a different guide, you can actually check out the Master Nezarec guide. I'll have that linked in the description below so you can actually see the main mechanics. This one will be just a quick overview of the challenge itself and a full run of the challenge so you can kind of see exactly what we did. I was particularly on 1 and 4, so I was on light 1 and then I would switch over and get dark 4. And I was also starting with the gaze, so I would hit light 1 and then I would get in position and I would take the gaze by shooting his chest on the first run. And since we didn't need a refuge on the first run, I didn't have to worry about sticking around and trying to, keep him from doing damage to anybody. We kind of all scattered and tried to avoid him all at the same time. So that was pretty easy as far as not having to always be dealing with him, plus everything else. I still kept an eye on him just to make sure he didn't kill the runners best I could. And then, of course, I helped ad clear as best I can. I was actually running div and a sniper, so I was a little bit limited in ad clear. I didn't want to waste too much div on the ads. So pretty much my job was to take out or to complete, should I say, the very first node, go and start hitting grenades on the ads in front of me, and then I had another wave where I would hit with another grenade, and I would end up be ready with my rift down. I had an empowering rift down in order to help me pop the chest quicker so I can get it in one shot instead of having to take 2 shots. And I was using succession, so like a heavy sniper, anything like that, or a linear fusion will do. So for the fight, I'm going to go ahead and then go over my portion here in a sec. That way you can see exactly what I did. Right, so as you can see here, we're starting up the encounter. From here, I'm going to go ahead and move over to the first node and knock it out as quickly as I can, and then get in position to shoot Nezarec. Again, I put my well down here normally when I'm doing Nezarec Master, and I have good middle ad clear, but for some reason, like, I guess the person that was doing the middle ad clear was also kind of worried too much about their plate, or their plate, their L2 or R2, because I think those are the 2 guys that were doing the middle. So he was kind of making it difficult on me. I was getting pretty wrecked standing right there, but I got it done. And then I ran over and I hit my seed, and then I got to the 4th seed. So I was L1, R4. Once I did that, I came back to the middle, and I was kind of clearing ads the best I could, trying to protect the 6s. As you can see, it's still a little bit of a work in progress on this run. This wasn't the run that we actually cleared on. This was actually our best first round damage phase, where we actually like nuked the boss pretty hard. We almost one phased him. And so my job, once I got done with my 1 and 4, was to either control Nezarec or to go, as you saw me, clear the ads in the middle and get my well down on our damage plate. We chose the plate on the right because it just happened to be the best plate for us, where he would end up being most of the time. And I actually prefer this plate because it's really open on the left and right sides. As long as he doesn't get in the very middle by that middle pillar, it's perfect. And as you can see here, he's like super out in the open, and we're just wrecking him because of where he's standing. I also dumped my grenade launcher. I was running the Regnant grenade launcher with explosive light and auto loading enhanced, and I would dump my whole mag and then start doing my DPS with the Divinity. And I was on Divinity, so I was kind of trying at first to get the Divinity out. Later on, when I got a rhythm in, I was actually doing Divinity, Grenade, Divinity, Grenade, Divinity, Grenade. So I was actually out DPSing some of the guys that we had in some of these runs, and I was on Divinity, so that was that was a little bit rough. But we still had a couple other really heavy hitters that did a great job with their loadouts. As you can see, we got him down to like 33% or so. We got basically almost 25%. So it was pretty close. It was between 25 and 30. And we were going to finish it out on this run, but nobody got any heavy. And so that was one of the crappy things. We didn't have anybody running Aeons, killing the champions and stuff. And that was another issue that we were running into, was the people were so focused, the 2s and the 3s were so focused on getting their plate that they weren't killing the champions. So as 1 and 4, being the first person to switch over to the right, I had to contend with a barrier champ there quite a bit. And since I was also running Gaze, I was not in any place to like actually do damage to the barrier champion once he barriered up. I could try and get Radiant sometimes and break it through, but it just wasn't reliable. For some reason, like the Radiant doesn't always work with anti-barriers, and I don't know if it's just the timing at which sometimes I pick it up, or just, again, the game being the game. But you'll see here in this clip, part of the reason why I'm dying is because I'm getting shot by a barrier in the back, or I'm trying to get past a ton of ads, and I don't really have a whole lot that I can use to kill the ads. Again, I have my heavy, but I'm saving it for the boss. I have my sniper, so I can snipe an ad here every now and then. And until I got adjusted to that, until I got adjusted to kind of like how I was going to protect myself with the limited amount of ammo that I could use, because again, I didn't want to waste too much div. And since I couldn't get a lot of kills, I didn't get a lot of div back. So it was a little bit tough on me as the div person, as just with ammo economy. But it wasn't too bad. Once I got used to it, I really leaned on my abilities quite a bit, on my grenades quite a bit. Thankfully, I was on my Warlock doing the Starfire build. So that is pretty much what carried me, was the Starfire build. And I'll go over that build again at the very end, because the build that I had before that's linked with the other Nezarec video was a solar week, and this one happened to be a void week. So it's important that you alter your build and pretty much take the build that I have and then add in a lot of like void centered items. So like void reload, because firepower is broken, and you'll see that had the void and initially the extra reserves for void. And then after that, I ended up just saying, screw it, I'm just going to go with arc reserves, because the div was more important, and I wasn't always using all of my heavy. But I did still have the void surge, so that way, whenever I was in there and I wasn't the first well to pop, and I got the ability to use explosive light, then I was able to swap over and just dump a whole mag into the boss real fast and then get my div going. So you'll see that on this run, we actually came really, really close. And unfortunately didn't get it done here, but we did at least learn everybody positionally where we should be. I learned where I should be standing for the safer spot that you'll see in the run, to the left of the first pillar, to the left of my L1 pillar or plate. And then from there, the run after this went pretty smooth. So what I'm going to do real quickly is I'm going to cover the build on the next portion, and then on the outro I'll just touch one more time on how we're going to do the mechanics, kind of give my closing thoughts, and then we'll go right into the full run so you can see the full run front to back. So this is the build portion of the guide. As you can see here, I'm on Starfire Protocol. I was using Succession with Lead from Gold and Vorpal, and then I was also using Divinity. I happened to be the person with the div, so I pulled it out, and I was able to still get a decent amount of damage in while I was doing the div, because again, I would unload an entire mag of the Explosive Light Regnant, and then I would go to the div and do a little bit of div, grenade to keep the bubble up and still get my grenades in. And as you can see, this is kind of the full extent of the build. The artifact isn't as important as long as you have the Void and the Solar mods here. So I had the authorized mods Void and the authorized Solar. Those were actually very helpful in getting a lot of the abilities and the mods in. And so you'll see here that I was doing the Void Siphon, which only costs 1 energy. My Grenade Kickstarts only cost 1 energy. Void Loader only costs 1 energy. And then Void Weapon Surge, I was running triple Void Weapon Surge, also only cost 1 energy. I ended up going with Arc Reserves just to help me out on the div, but if you were doing damage and DPS, this would be a Void, and it would only cost 1 as well. My Void Resistance was double Void Resistance for Nezarec's ability, because he was really the only one that was the biggest threat to kind of one-shot you. All the other stuff would pick at you little by little with Solar. And if Nezarec isn't a problem, then you can switch over to Solar, and that'll prevent you from dying to the champions and to that little ads that are in the middle. The heavy ammo finders are going to be great. Heavy ammo scout is very helpful as well if you're running heavy ammo scout. I also was just running outreach to give me a little bit of melee back so that I could do something while I was in between phases hitting stuff with my melees. Proximity war to try to save myself if I really needed to shield up while people were still kind of filtering over to my side to help me with the ads. From there, bricks from beyond would be very helpful if you were running heavy and you just happen to, like for example, let's say I decided to grenade launcher a few things to get heavy ammo for everybody, so that would have been a good little addition there as well. I was running fire sprites, that was helping me get armor charges, and that was helping as well with the abilities. The shadow orbs, I think there is a few solar shields. You can get shatter orbs with solar if using a solar weapon, but in this case void is the burn this week. And again, the weapons, I had explosive light, auto-loading holster, vorpal, and lid from gold. I would put down a empowering rift and shoot him with the vorpal weapon, and it would one-shot his chest for the gaze, so that way he wasn't bumping the runners. And then when he would come down, the other runner, who was also on the other one, would help out a little bit and get his attention and kind of run him around. And that's pretty much the difference from this build to last build. Not a whole lot of big difference, but having your stats in the right place is important. Obviously I had 100 resilience, I had 100 discipline for my grenade build, I had 90 recovery, and I do that of course with the artifice armor, so hopefully you guys have good sets of artifice armor. If not, you can use d2armorpicker.com, so that way you can go in there and optimize your set. You want to prioritize your resilience, and then your grenade and recovery comes second, and then everything else is just kind of fill stats. If you have any questions, I will have a pinned comment in the video below, and you can respond directly to that pinned comment, and I can kind of see that and answer some of your questions, hopefully help you with some of your other builds if you're running some different classes. But other than that, this is pretty much the guide for the build. I'm going to go and do my closing information, just kind of going over some of the kind of tips and tricks, like the videos that I like to title them, the tips and tricks were. That way you can kind of see what I did, how I did it. If you're also a warlock, it'll be also very synergistic, what I'm doing to what you're doing. You can kind of just do exactly what I did. You can even go in there and say, hey, I'm L1 R4, so that way you don't have to worry about it looking slightly different for you. It'll actually look exactly like my POV does in the actual run. And I recommend that as well, because R1 and R4 can, not only do they have a good amount of responsibility front loaded, they're not as stressful on the back end when you're waiting for the 6s. So that was nice that I was able to have the responsibility in the beginning, and then once my 1 and 4s were done and Nezarec was kind of controlled in the middle, I was cool. I could just kill ads and try to stay safe and get ready for the DPS and get ready to drop a well to protect everybody, kind of a safety well a little bit early. And you'll see that in the final run here, how we got it done. Alright, just going to go over quickly the winning run that we had. Just some of the things that stood out. Probably not the whole run itself, because I just want to make this like a few minutes, and then I'll play the run unedited. That way you can see from beginning to end exactly how it looked. As you can see, I was doing the shoulders and the chest on this run, so I could see that it was a light refuge. You do still want to make the refuge. That's important. What we were doing was we were having the 3s usually make the refuge, so we would do 1, 2, 3, and then when we got ready to switch, we would make the refuge on the 2 plates, which are in this case the 1 plates when you're calling out the L1 and R1. So on those 1 plates, not the very front one that are traditionally, but the ones that are first up where you hit your first node, we would make the refuge light or dark. And again, if you're new to that, the way you make the refuge is if you have the light buff, you go over to the dark refuge, and that would make a dark refuge to protect if he's dark. And if he glows light, then you take the dark buff over to a light node that is not active, which again we were doing it on the L1, R1 nodes. You would stand on that node and shoot the little seed there, the little traveler seed, and that makes a light refuge, so that way when he blasts his light wave you don't die. We were doing that on the second run, because on the first run we were usually quick enough to not have to worry about the refuge. If you're doing it from the very spawn, like once you first get up there, the dialogue and stuff that takes them a little while to get down unfortunately does eat into the time, so you will have to make a refuge if you're just doing it from the very beginning and you don't just wipe preemptively. But you can just start the encounter, wipe, that way you get the extra little time, you get that first run in, and as you can see we got his health down to 50% on the run that we actually completed on, which is perfectly fine. We did a lot more earlier on, but over time people were kind of switching things up and trying to get their loadout to last them longer between the 2 phases, so that's why we didn't do quite so much on this run. But from there, you're going to reset. You're going to go back to your node. I already did the 1 and the 4. So here I am again doing the light 1. I'm killing the ads. I'm dropping my rift. I'm killing the second set. And then from there, I'm shooting him in the chest. And then it's all free for all going forward. So I'll get over to the right side. And what I'm listening for with my queue is L3 done. Once I know L3 is done, and I see here I'm kind of helping with the barrier. Once I know L3 is done, then I get up there and I look to see where the actual active node is. It happened to go back to the front. I hit my node and I booked it over to the active node, which is R4. I'm calling R4 done and I'm getting clear. I don't run directly to Nezarec, but I do run into the front because that's going to be where the ads are clear. Here I am picking up the refuge for the light refuge, so the dark person came over and lit it up as I was coming over. And from there, we were all good. I think we had one person die, but that was another key, is just, again, trying to play your life the best you can. You know, the less you have deaths, the less you have to worry about. Especially our runs kind of got cut short when the 6s would die because they were waiting on the other 6, so that was another little bit of a rough time. Nezarec would get in there and wreck the 6 guy. As you can see, that exactly happened right here. And so the actually the 6 guy had to res the 5 guy, it looks like, and then from there he was able to activate. We get to the main node. I'm clearing out this Colossus here, and we're just kind of sitting and waiting, and we're like, all right, we got this. Unfortunately, he was a little far away from us whenever he activated, so I just kind of dumped my mag here. Then I started getting the nades in. As you can see, this is where I'm starting to do the nade and the debuff at the same time. So I'm getting my debuff on, going to the nade, getting the debuff, going to the nade, and as I'm going back and forth, I'm hitting him with the divinity, and I'm going back to the nade, I'm actually producing more damage than I was doing on that first run where we wrecked him and got him down to about a third of his health. So that kind of helped us get us over the hump as well. Like I said, we had one guy that was doing less damage than me, and I was using div. So we were just kind of trying to carry just a little bit there. But here the guys were getting a little bit nervous because he was out for a little while. But I was like, no, we got him. We got 2 more teleports. From there, boom, we were done. We hit the chest. And as you can see, that's kind of how I was able to kind of clear with a bunch of guys that, again, don't know each other. A lot of my content is based on LFG because I don't have a set group. And these guys were pretty good. You know, I kind of got lucky. Sometimes you have to carry 2 or 3 people on this encounter. In this case, we only had one guy that we kind of carried. And even then, he wasn't that bad. He just wasn't doing a total bunch of damage, but he wasn't dying for the most part. So that was another positive, is that the guy that was doing less damage at least wasn't hurting us by getting deaths, untimely deaths, and things like that. And so I claimed my triumphs. That was my last one to get the master section done and get my speeder. And so now I've got the Master Sparrow, and all I got to do now is just kind of go back through and knock out the different classes that I didn't really feel like doing. I also took time to buy a couple of the Rufus Fury Adepts. I got a couple of good rolls. I got the target lock reconstruction, and I got rewind rounds and reconstruction. So that was pretty cool. Other than that, that's pretty much the video. I'm going to go ahead and replay this with our comms and everything so you can hear us from here. Thanks very much for watching to the end. And again, I appreciate all my new subscribers. I know I kind of have like a split channel between a few different games, so I appreciate everybody who enjoys both sets of contents, subscribes, and sticks around for both sets of contents. If you have any kind of feedback or anything that you would like me to add, like for example, I was considering making a few builds that I like and making a few build videos, things like that. Any additional guides that I may not be currently making that you would like to see from me, just let me know in the comments and I'll do my best to accommodate you guys. Again, thanks very much for watching to the end. You have a good rest of your evening and enjoy the run from here.
I thought we'd do.
Ready when you are.
I'm ready. Yep.
Let's go. Ones are done.
Light 2 done. Dark 3 is done.
Light 3's done.
Dark 3 done.
Dark 4 is done.
White 4 done. Dark 5 done.
Alright, 6, shoot it.
Going to damage.
Clean.
Looks like he's going to be more on the right side. Kind of right in the middle.
Well, look at the wall.
Div reloading. Okay, well, we got the half we needed. Ones are done.
Good stuff.
Patriots down.
That feels done. Light 2 done. Dark 3 done.
Light 3 done.
What's the
Dark
refuge?
4 done.
Light.
I'm coming for the refuge now.
Light 4 done. Dark 5 done. Light 5 done.
Alright, 6, you ready?
Yeah.
Shoot it.
Alright, go ready for damage, everyone?
Damn it. 6.
Nice, get ready. Reloading.
Come on, come on, come on, come
We
on.
got it,
We're
we
done.
got it. GG's.
Good,
GG's.
Easiest 2 phase of my life. We didn't even have heavy.
My memory will never extinguish. In your calmest moments, your deepest slumber, you will remember me, Guardian.
Grab a couple adepts here.
Alright. Good one, guys. How's it going?
GG's.
GG.
Nice day.
You too.
Bye.